Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me on this platform today. Today we are going to look at, the genesis of some certain things we have been looking at, that are of very important to so many people, across the world, including you, who is part of this platform. I'm talking about, the Igbo nation here. I'm talking about the African man. I'm talking about, how did Igbo, get to where they are today? How Africa, evolved over the time. Let me give you an instances where Africa, the name Africa, then you begin to know, where you are, the space you occupied in all the geographical areas that you have found yourself, they all are located, but the center of attraction is today is, where is the issues surrounding what happened in Nigeria in 1966, 15th January 1966, where Nigeria registered one of the bloodiest coup that was seen or believed, or it was to be an Igbo coup. Then, I'm trying to trace that, a historic event of that day to where it all might have started, because we know that the word Africa was given by, after, or named by an Italian, but there's a tribe. There's a tribe in northern part of the country, maybe the Carthage or the Hannibals, but within that period, within that axis, there's a place they call Afri, a tribe called Afri. Anyway, but the real name of Africa is Al-Kaibana. That's the real name of Africa, meaning, the mother, of the earth. How will I put it? The mother of mankind. Al-Kabana is the Al-Kabana is the mother of. What does it meaning? Mother, of mankind. You know what I mean? Or the Garden of Eden. If you translate it, there has been a lot of issues that it might be have located in Africa, but the distance between Middle East and Africa is very close. That was how it came about. We have Afri, a tribe in the northern part, precisely somewhere in Tunisia today. Then we have tribes there, communities there, or hamlets. That we have the Ethiopia, we have the Mali, we have the or something, Oraji or something, if I can get it, but I think it was 4, but inside that 4, I'm picking Ethiopia because it's related to, the black man world, considering the fact what Ethiopia represents in the Bible. The Solomon, in the Bible, King Solomon, one of the richest man there, was a black man, has been recorded then. Then we have the connection of the Ethiopians are seen as the ancient Hebrews in that regard, and the coming of the nation that was not colonized. I'm talking about Ethiopia. Nobody colonized them. Then move it away, to where we started hearing about the name called Biafra as a kingdom, the kingdom as at that time, and how it came about to the extent that all of a sudden we couldn't be able to see it, it was being removed from the map of the world. But the remnants of that name, of that kingdom, was found somewhere in Ethiopia. They call them the Ethiopian miners, very close to the Gulf of Guinea. Some of them, that's why you see one Okoro, Christopher Okoro, becoming the first president, civilian president of Gambia, and later one Yahya Carlo became the military leader of Gambia. So many countries like that, that have traces of this tribe I'm trying to talk about, and why to an extent we have seen a direct a conspiracy, not really coming from this where we are going to look at so many issues, but how did we get to this level? Somebody asked that question. I said, whatever that have made Adolf Hitler to go against the Jews of Europe. It's something that's making anybody, anywhere, to understand that what is the mystery surrounding the Igbo race in Nigeria, in Africa. Then that was how it came up. That axis down to, was called the Bight of Biafra. The Portuguese confirmed it. Those researchers, the earlier missionaries confirmed it, that the ancient Ethiopian miners were called Biafra. Where did they get the name Biafra? It takes you back to history, where a certain kingdom was existed, until the traces was being removed from the map of the world. But those remnants maintained, and that was how those Ethiopians was able to keep it to date. Then down to Equatorial Guinea, where you still have some Igbos there till today, down to this part of the world where the Eri and the kingsman, or he first established his kingdom in Kogi before moving in Kogi State, yes, before moving downward. And that is why if you look at the map of as at that time, it has seas. It has to do with the entire Jigawa, the southern Cameroon. Before it was Britain came and negotiated some certain things with France, and they were able to cede some part of Adamawa, to Nigeria, and that some of those parts of Cameroon were actually the east, and there was a reason why the British government did what they did as at that time. The reason is that it took them 30 to 40 years to be able to penetrate the eastern part, the eastern region. When I'm talking about the eastern region, it comprises from Adamawa, Kogi, all those areas, Benue, and even to an extent some part of Niger State, down to where we have, the mainstream, talking about the core eastern states, old eastern region, as the case may be. So that was the drive. Just to give you an insight, that was the drive. It took the British government 30 years to penetrate. They don't have any issue with the Northerners, because when they arrived, it was just no system was found. Let me just put it that way, But if there was any system, it was just a mere arrangement. So they find it very easy to penetrate. But in the West here, the Yorubas, actually, according to record, invited them, for colonization. But the center part of the country, the eastern part of the country, they fought for it until they were able to penetrate the entire east. So they were not actually comfortable with that arrangement, and everything that has to do was to strip the Igbo nation of their geographical location, divide. Up to today, they are still dividing it to the extent that we are hearing something like Niger Delta, Igbo territory are being ceded to Cameroon. Proper, resources belonging to Biafra are being given to Cameroon and all that. Cameroon, all this old southern Cameroon and thereabout, we are part of the old eastern region, and which with time a lot of questions is going to be asked in that regard. So I'm looking at then from that process, the hatred, begin to penetrate down to the extent of Nigeria having their independence, and where we witnessed the first coup, organized by 22 people, and those 22 people have nationalities, ethnic nationalities of this country. But the fact is that how come it becomes an Igbo coup? How come it was labeled an Igbo coup in January 15, where there was supposed to be another coup, organized by extremists and fundamentalists who are at the point trying to advance the Ottoman ideology of jihadist conquest, to make sure that this part of the world is being colonized by Islamization, or let me just put it that way. So they have already mapped out their own plan, and you can see that at that point too, what was noticed in the north was extreme nepotism. That was why we say National Northern People's Congress, that we have NCNC, and there was a coalition of that government, but majorly in that part of the country was an issue that has to do with extreme nepotism. Then in the West here, we have the issue between Akintola and Awolowo or thereabout, and Awolowo actually went to prison and all that. But all these things, if you look at the background of how all these things came about, you discover that, there were traces of infiltration, and manipulation by the British government, considering the fact that the first riot to push colonialism away from Africa, from Nigeria, was done by the Aba riot. What I mean by Aba riot? A lot of you can remember, it was when they began a mass taxation, just like what we are experiencing today in Tinubu's government, that Nigerians are overtaxed. And there was a riot, and there was people. So the likes of Azikiwe, them, Mbono, and the rest of the men as at that time, who were at the forefront of, Africanism, started asking, campaigning that the whites, the British system should actually leave Nigeria. And that was where the hatred for Igbos started and was politically, militarily transferred, to the jihadists who, as at that time, occupied the entire north. So from there, we begin to experience that kind of nepotism. And when Awolowo had issues with them, Chukuma Kaduna Nzeogwu, Som Chuku, So Chuku Kuduma Chukuma Nzeogwu. Let me put it. Yes, that's his name. Of Igbo extraction. Was part of the people who had opportunity to put or even take away the life of that sage Awolowo at that time. But they saw in Awolowo someone who had what it takes to transform Nigeria, and as at that time, because the coalition government of NPC and NCC, is already moving towards deepening corruption and an ideology, that might not be able to transform just a young republic. So they quickly look at it from that way, that they needed to do something. Of course, there was a military coup by 22 people, and those 22 people, one should take care of North, and the other one should take care of the South at the end of the day. Chukuma also did that and take care of the North. Those ones who are supposed to take care of the South was not able to declare that. But because he waited for some time, and he went and made that announcement, and that was how it became an Igbo coup, and that was what he was arrested. Yes, Ojukwu arrested him. Ojukwu also arrested Obasanjo. This Obasanjo now, but on the course of investigation, they set him free. You understand? But unfortunately, we should not be allowing this kind of a thing to repeat ourselves. Even we know that Gowon too and T.Y. Danjuma should come out clearly and tell the whole world there was a report, there was a committee that was set up, to investigate. Up to today, that committee, that report has never been made public as to able to ascertain the causes, the main cause of who that was behind that coup. Because we know AhmaduBello himself and some of his men who were involved in the ideology of conquest of Usman Tafode to take over the entire Nigeria, including the South. He made it very clearly to everybody. He didn't hide it. Was also trying to get the British system, British government backup, get the military backup, get the political backup, to take over Nigeria completely by the Nigerian National Alliance. Go and find out who are those people being called Nigeria National Alliance. Who are they? What are the things? What are their components? What are their ideology? Who made up that stuff? But the people does not understand what the likes of intelligent officers like Chukuma Nzeogwu actually fought for, and the rest of them. They wanted a liberation, and in the clear term of it, they wanted, because being part of the people that investigated Awolowo on that reasonable charges, he discovered that Awolowo has what it takes, to put Nigeria on the forefront. So the only thing, the only way these patriotic officers the only thing they needed to do is to set up an arrangement, where they will bring in a type of government, as at that time time they didn't fit, to position Awolowo as the president of Nigeria and begin to advance Nigeria to the next level. But you see what the British system did. That thing was not allowed to hold waters till today. And at that point, Aguiyi on that process of trying to do the same thing was killed. So many of them, fine officers, also lost their lives. And in trying to immediately it failed. And arrest was done and all that. Quietly, Gowon, who was the chief of staff to Aguiyi, Major General Aguiyi, the first military head of state of Nigeria, could not be able to do the needful because he has already been inspired and powered by the British interest, hatred against this tribe called Igbo. We must take that. Africa must take that, and not understand that we will not continue to see and experience those lapses again without being very, very careful. It can never repeat itself again. These things has continued, whether in different manners, in different forms. Even when the Buhari administration came, he came with a kind of agenda that is linked to Fulanization, linked to this thing, the Islamization too. By making sure that he pushed all his killer squad, on all the 36 states of the federation. We know what is happening. We know why they keep on stripping Igbos, of their territorial heritage, So to that point, it has continued, and the Britain knows what is the truth. But my question, I want to get it today is that I want a situation where Gowon and Yakubu Gowon and T.Y. Dajuma should come out and make that report public. There was a committee that was set up to find out what transpired during the 1966 coup and why the other coup that was supposed to take place on the 17th of the same month, what actually happened. We need to find out, So these are the questions, these are the things that has kept this that has transferred, let me put it that way, that has transferred this pacified backward understanding of what happened that painted the coup of 1966 and Igbo coup. And if it were actually, then how come when the likes of Buhari struck, we didn't hear anything? The likes of Babangida said they didn't say it's Babangida coup and an Hausa coup. So many of them, Abacha did. All of them, we didn't hear anything like that. British government should understand very clearly, that generations are coming and they are going to ask questions and they begin to discover some things, and people begin to look at some things to a point where we begin to have things are beginning to become very clearer. Up to this point, they came, they say one night Niger Delta, where we understand all these things, we understand all those factors, you understand, but Gowon and Yakubu should make it very public, let the whole world know, the report of that 1966 coup, 15th, and the one of 17th, 1966, should be made public, at least to put some of these things to rest once and for all. Anyway, that's the fact too, and we are also taking it up from there, that the fact that Biafra must stand, the fact that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is in the right direction, the fact that Simon Ekpa has been threatened by the Finnish government, is the same thing that's happening. The same thing that happened years back is still what is trending, but it will come to a point where it is going to be stopped, and I think time has come, because this generation are the children or are the victims of those oppressed people based on a different ideology and all that. So Igbo man has paid a lot of price, in trying to advance, for the betterment of this country, and that is why up to today Igbos are still laboring, to make sure that Nigeria as a nation work. But Nigeria refused to work. Nigeria refused to work. All the propaganda, all the magic, all the things they are doing is based on the fact that they do not understand the mystery surrounding and the DNA that made an Igbo man. Nobody can stop the sun from rising. God bless you. A time came on the like what the Bible said. The people of Israel, came back together as one and became a nation. That is what we are praying for and expecting that it happens, because a time is going to come, when all the land that we are taking away, all by enemies, will be restored, back to the Biafrans, both anywhere they are, it will be restored. There will be a time it will come that they will be celebrated, liberation will come, just like what we are witnessing in Israel today. Israel, after how many years? About 4,000 years, they came back and they became a nation. A day will come, when the people, the world, will celebrate the restoration and the coming of Biafra as a nation, that will be modeled after, other great nations like America, Israel, and the rest of them. So it's going to be a land of liberty, a land where every colony that made up Biafra, the ancient kingdom, the ancient Biafra geopolitical territories will be restored back. And that's the message for today. And as you keep on getting this message, we were still going to have time to dive in more into the revelations that we are getting about what transpired, the real truth of the 1966 coup, that took place, that shook the foundations of this country, considering the fact that the concept to get Bafemi Awolowo to become the president was on the front burner. God bless you.